So last week I made a video with my library, and believe it or not, even though I have a lot of books, I am not really a book hoarder. It's been tough it started out tough to get rid of my books, but it's become a lot easier because I started keeping track of my favorite stuff that I read in here. So my favorite lines, my favorite facts, I put in here, and I'm able to get rid of the books that I know I'm not gonna wanna reread. And this actually started back when I was 7. I used to have trouble getting rid of my magazines. I loved Mad Magazine and I loved Nickelodeon Magazine at the time. And I had this giant stack, and my parents were like, why do you have so many magazines? Like, you're never gonna reread them. And they were right, I would have never reread them in their entirety, but there were certain parts that I wanted to remember and experience again. So I started cutting out my favorite articles, comics, what have you from them, and keeping them in a little notebook. And then that turned into, with the advent of the internet and reading books on my iPad and stuff, I started actually writing down my favorite items in here. And then I started doing that with my school books, because I'm obviously not going to read my textbooks again. I'm certainly not going to reread my notebooks because I have notoriously bad handwriting, so I couldn't understand my notes anyway. So I started just taking out my very favorite things from those textbooks and notebooks, and again, putting them into my own notebooks. And the way that I run my notebooks is pretty different. I started out where I just used regular notebooks. I had this called my neon green notebook, and I even started a blog for it. And it just had facts and quotes, and that was it. It was just a notebook. But I quickly filled that whole thing up, and I was also pasting certain things from magazines in there and stuff, so it got pretty messed up pretty quick. All the pages were all messed up. So I decided the best way to go about it is through note cards. As you can see, I write all my notes on note cards, and this way, if I see a page is getting messy, because I do have really bad handwriting, but I try my best to have good handwriting in these. If I notice that it's getting messy, I just rip out the note card and then replace it. And sometimes I'll reread a note and I'll be like, actually, I don't really care for that quote anymore. It doesn't resonate with me anymore, so I eliminate it. So I'm constantly updating my notebooks to make sure that they are filled with the type of content that I value and want to read again. And I also make little collages because I love making collages. So again, I love magazines, but that way I can get rid of them without feeling like, I'm throwing out my magazines. So I have it divided into sections. This first section is language play. So it's things like Firefly is the opposite of waterfall. So just kind of funny tidbits playing with language, right? Things that you read in different books or even online. And I try to quote, cite whoever said it best as possible, but sometimes, especially with the internet, it's not in there. Or if it's a fact book, it's not in there. Another interesting tidbit, the W in Vietnam War does not get capitalized. In the CIA style guide to this, it doesn't get capitalized because it was an undeclared war, so we don't technically capitalize the W. I find that fascinating. So that's in the language play section. Then we have the more you know section, which is just facts, because it originally started with facts in these notebooks because I love facts. So these are just interesting tidbits and facts that you read. I used to read every fact book I can get my hands on. I cannot go into Barnes & Noble now and find a fact book because I read them all. And I used to read almanacs and all that kind of fun stuff. So these are the facts I found. Some interesting ones. Buzz Lightyear was originally named Lunar Larry. I find that adorable. And then there are some life tips in there too, if you have a stomachache, lay on your left side. Just things like that, facts, okay? And then the final section in this notebook is lists. Well, maybe not. No, this one's collages. Lists are the other ones. So then I have this one, which the first section is quotes. And this is probably my biggest section because if it's an interesting quote, I'll put it in here. I'll cite the source. Some of these quotes are from professors, some are from authors, some are even I have a few from movies. Normally it's books that I quote. But yeah, some examples. Let's see. Just an example. Sometimes not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck. Dalai Lama said that. Just once you wanted to be the poem and not the poet. That's J.R. Rogue. a lot of just really nice inspirational quotes in there. Not just inspirational, but life quotes, things like that, things that kind of shape the way that you think of the world. And then my next section is my favorite section. That's the humor section. Probably one of my favorite genres is humor. So anything funny that I see goes in here. And it's a lot of off the wall type of humor. Let's see. And also weird things. So I put the song A Simple Desultory Philippic, or How I Was Robert McNair into Submission. That's a Simon & Garfunkel, or is it just a Paul Simon song? It's a Paul Simon song. So I just put that title in there because I think that's like the funniest long-winded title. It's before my time. I don't understand all the references, even though I read all about what that actually means. But you don't see song titles like that anymore, so I put that in there because I thought it was actually really funny. It just sounds good. So there's a lot of really funny things, at least I find funny in here. Like W is half of the letters to start with a D. That was from Dimitri Martin. There are so many Dimitri Martin quotes in here. I probably have the most quotes are probably A by Dimitri Martin, and then Jack Handey, and then Chuck Palahniuk. Those are probably the most common people I quote in here. And then the very last section is lists. So I make a lot of lists. Favorite musicians, most beautiful songs, my favorite names, favorite questions. And then I did one, who would be on my Sgt. Pepper cover. So I took all the people that I really admire and wrote out who would be on my Sgt. Pepper cover. And favorite shows, favorite plays. So I love my notebooks. I really, really do. I have spent more time with my notebooks than most other things. I love how they can go along with my classes, with my reading, with internet perusal. And I like the fact that they're organized through the note cards. So anybody looking for a solution to, combat clutter and get rid of some of those books and stuff, I find, actually I call them notebooks, really binders. I find binders like this to be a perfect solution.